Dallas Cowboys, rookies and veterans, are required to report to Oxnard tomorrow.
So are we.
Except for Mike, are also required to report to Oxnard.
Mike's not going to Oxnard this year?
Really,
Have we discussed this yet?
Are you kidding me?
I definitely feel like
Sorry, Mike, you can't go.
Haven't we talked about this on air yet?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
we held it from you as long as
checked
possible, but
I haven't checked my email
Here's
yet.
the
we're not
deal.
sending
I'm
you.
aware about how often you check your email.
Mike, here's the deal.
Okay.
We are the home of the Cowboys.
True.
We are also the baseball show of record as the home of the Rangers
That's
here
right.
on 105.3 The Fan, and the trade deadline's coming next week.
Oh.
So Mike has to be all over what's going on with the Rangers during the White Sox series,
And the Red Sox.
the Red Sox series, and the trade deadline. So essentially, we're also going to be the home of the trade deadline next week.
You know, that's a great point. We probably need to put a promo together because wasn't it last year on that Saturday show we did that we broke the Max Scherzer trade?
Yeah, I think we broke everything that day. It was amazing. So, yeah, Mike's going to have to be available on Saturday.
That's why Jerry's doing the Saturday press conference. He doesn't want the Rangers to steal the headlines on that Saturday.
He heard buzz, we're going to get Scooble. He's like, the hell you are.
Hey, I'll go ahead and move up my trial date, so I'm going to have to miss this so that they can't break news on Saturday.
Man.
That's awesome.
Do you think you guys, serious question, do you think you guys are going to get told before that press conference you can't ask about the trial? I mean, it would have to be like a big meeting. There's going to be like
Somebody's going to ask.
50 people. There's going to be like 50 media members there.
Somebody's going to ask. And listen to this. I've often said this, Kevin. It's sports, which is the toys. And a lot of times the sports section will say, I'll defer that to the news section. I'll let the news section cover that. But the questions are going to be asked. And Jerry's going to say at least 2 or 3 times,
ongoing legal matter.
you know, I have to, lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. I can't
HIPAA.
answer those questions.
Yeah.
Not HIPAA.
HIPAA,
And so maybe HIPAA. I don't know. I
no,
can't answer
it's
those
not
questions.
HIPAA.
Yeah. So that's
Is it
where
Hippo?
that's where I think it'll land is you'll get not real answers. You'll get standard lawyer answers.
Okay, so my question for y'all then, serious, even if you don't have the highest expectations for the Cowboys this season, what are the biggest questions and storylines heading into Oxnard? What's number one for you? Because this is one I immediately dismissed. NFL.com said, does Dallas have to deal with growing pressure? I actually don't think that at all. I think the pressure level, at least externally. Now, I understand internally, whether it's Dak, McCarthy, or whoever, why the pressure level might be higher. But in terms of outside pressure you're getting, this feels like the least buzz on a Cowboys team in a few years, at least.
Everybody kind of has them nationally. Everybody still has them as, look, they're right there in the mix of good teams.
Yeah, 10-7 or whatever.
Locally, a lot. I haven't experienced this much apathy towards the team, the offseason, everything that they're doing. I've never experienced this. And I'm not just saying me personally. I'm saying just the buzz around the town is not the same. Had a guy that I met a couple weeks ago. He was just like, "So what do you think about the Cowboys?" And I was like, "What do you think? What do you mean? What do you think about the Cowboys?" He was like, "I don't know, man. I just don't have any faith in them right now." And I was like, "Oh." And that's like the more and more that's what I'm getting from everybody. So the pressure locally, I think, is not going to be that immense until you start to see whether or not this team's bad. And if this team turns out to be bad throughout the regular season, you're gonna get a lot more cries of, all right, blow it all up and start over. And that's what you're gonna start to see if they start out bad. So the pressure would be mostly from within to not start out bad and not finish bad either.
I agree with you, but I guess there's always pressure just because they're on so many Sunday night and Monday night games. They are, the Thanksgiving game. I get Detroit's probably better this year, but
the highest rated regular season of the game of the season every year is that, or most years is that game.
It's still the 11:30 game, and so your 3:30 game becomes the premium game. Then the next Thursday night, you're on Thursday night football. So I'm with you, Corey, but I guess as the Cowboys see it, they'll always be under immense pressure because they're always the highest rated and then put on the most primetime games.
Going into training camp, I'm not saying what should or shouldn't be. I'm just asking what will be talked about the most. Does it have to be the contracts? Because you're going to have CeeDee Lamb, who's not there for a minute, And then Micah Parsons is eligible for an extension. Obviously, they've been trying to do the Dak extension for
By
a
the
while.
way, on the CeeDee Lamb front, Calvin Watkins, I do believe, tweeted out moments ago, still, as they're preparing to leave,
He's not
no
going.
substantial discussions with him. So they haven't even, had a chat about it, is what they're saying.
That's, okay, I don't want this to sound cynical. That's where part of me thinks that the very, very beginning of training camp is not worth a whole lot because they're like, well, we don't have to negotiate with CD yet. What's he missing? Nothing. And so, that kind of goes through my mind. But I honestly think the number one talking point around Oxnard or nationally or whatever is going to be the contracts. You can pick any of those three guys, but it's going to be the contract.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, you want to get that done so you don't have to discuss that, so you can focus on football.
You would think for most franchises, yes.
I would say for our show, I'm not going to speak for other shows, that has become the most boring thing to talk about football-wise.
Yeah.
Contracts?
Yeah, is he going to get 31 or is he going to get 34? Is he going to get 32 and a half or is he going to get 33? It's like, okay, we get it. We know approximately what he's going to get.
And the reason why that bothers me so much is I'm way more interested in the bigger picture of if you gave Micah his long-term deal now. I don't care. He might say, I want $35 million. I know that sounds like a staggering number, but considering he still has 2 years, including the option left on his rookie deal, you can make that work and it can be acceptable for your salary cap. You really can, but the Cowboys don't seem to attack from the big picture like that, which is weird to me when you consider two of those positions with Mike and CD are two of the probably outside of quarterback, the highest growing positions in terms of cost that there is in the NFL. So why would you not say, well, let's do it now and then we'll deal with Dak later or however you want to do it. But why not deal with those two positions now when you know the price is going to go up?
The leaves.
Yeah, I really...
When leaves fall, Kevin, what happens?
If you had
really
truth
hate
serum
that.
inside
New leaves show in.
Stephen
Go up.
Jones, if he had to tell the truth, do you think he wishes that some of his players, there's not many that hit the standards of CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons. They've had two outstanding picks recently. Do you think that he wishes they weren't as good as they are?
You know, they still have room to grow, and we believe in them, and that's why we're paying them this amount of money, which is lower than most people that we're paying out there. I don't know.
Stephon Diggs. Sorry, not Stephon Diggs. Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah.
He's the perfect draft pick for Stephen Jones. It's he's good. He could even maybe get a little bit better, but we know he's not a top 3 cornerback. Probably will never be a top 3 cornerback. Maybe gets on in that conversation, but it's that's the perfect guy for Steven. It feels
whereas CD and Micah don't fit because you're I could see it.
Yeah, they might be the best at their position. I don't know how to negotiate from this situation.
How much do you guys or what you think other folks believe are interested in the return of Ezekiel Elliott? Because to me, that does not move the needle whatsoever because you have the weakest running back room. You don't have a lead running back. Your support staff behind Zeke is kind of questionable too. This does not move the needle for me at all.
You must have a broken needle then, bro. This is Zeke we're talking about.
I'm interested because of this. I really think he might match his number of 15 yards per game. And I think he's going to be so bad that it's going to be comical. And that you're going to go, I can't believe it's he's going to make Eddie George look like he could still run for the Dallas Cowboys. And I mean, I'm telling you, a piece of grass tripped Eddie George when he played for the Cowboys. He was horrible.
I did see it.
And he was Eddie George, great career. Eddie George, not a Hall of Famer, but one of those guys where you thought, well, okay, not a Hall of Famer, but man, he was one of those guys, really good career. Zeke had a good career. It ended quickly, mostly because of him. And now I think you are going to see one of the worst running backs in the NFL, and they're going to promote him as one of the best. And it is going to, I think, I'm interested, and I hope I'm wrong. I think it's going to be comically bad.
Okay. And somebody texted this in. By the way, I do not want to make the case that Micah Parsons is complaining about his contract. I'm not making that case at all. My point is he is eligible for an extension now, And if you believe he's the dude that you really believe he is, now's the opportunity to lock him in. And I know people are going to hate this, but if you don't think that, it's the same with Dak. If you don't think that, then trade them and look for another person who you do.
Yeah, and the thing, too, like with Micah specifically, Kevin, is, and again, Steven will tell you it's a two-way street. They have to talk to us as much as we have to talk to them.
And that is fair.
Which, unless you're like, well, you only talk to us first, and then we say, no, that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
That's wrong. But when it comes to them making a decision about a guy like that, they're the ones that do watch them internally.
Yeah.
And try and go, is that really what we want? We see a lot of the things on the field and other stuff. There's stuff that goes on internally. With CeeDee Lamb, I don't know that's the deal.
Does that make the indecision all the more maddening?
That's what makes it frustrating.
Yeah.
It definitely makes it more frustrating because you're like, you start to believe there's something you guys are seeing about these guys that you're not willing to pay them. But then when you do pay them, and you're like, no, everything's great. Then why did you waste all that time in the first place? You made it sound like they weren't good enough to get the money, and now you're making it sound like that they're the best, and then you're not going to win, and so that falls back on you.
How much are you intrigued by the potential offensive line battles? Now, you might think that primarily exists at center, and I understand that between Beebe and Hoffman, but how much are you interested in seeing the pretty new look offensive line? They've definitely made some changes.
I'm very interested to see what Guyton is.
Okay.
Like in this offensive line, because I know what he was at Oklahoma, and so I kind of have a good idea of that. How does he fit in? How dominant can he be at his size? How fast and athletic can he be? I want to see all those things compared to a Micah. Because last year we were like, hey, Micah maybe shouldn't practice because it's just blowing up y'all's plays all the time. And then Micah's out there going, be better, and I won't blow past you every time.
Which is fair.
So, this is a great opportunity. I mean, who was it? Tyron Smith. He had to go up against DeMarcus Ware all the time. So that was a great opportunity for him to learn at a young age. So I'm very interested in that, but definitely the center spot. And I want to see if Terrence Steele is back to being Terrence Steele.
I gotcha.
But it's going to take getting into the season. I mean, almost preseason to see if that's real or not.
Competition real or envisioned for wide receiver number 3. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb, Cooks. You got Jalen Tolbert.
Ferguson.
Well, that is true, but I mean actual wide receiver. Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, the kid they drafted in the 6th round, Ryan, son of a gun, starts with an F.
Fitzgerald, Patrick.
It's not Fitzgerald.
Florney.
But you get the idea.
Yeah.
Those 3 as being your first thoughts, but obviously Jalen Brooks came up in the world.
How
last
much
year.
does Kevontae Turpin get mixed into the offense?
That is a fair question as well. Are you intrigued by the wide receiver number 3 battle? Because a lot of people we've heard are concerned about the depth of wide receiver on the Cowboys.
I need Jalen Tolbert to turn into something, dude, and something useful. I need that to happen. I think there are a few Florida is going to get his opportunity to play himself onto this roster, or maybe even to a third position because of weakness after the first 2. And maybe you're like, well, that's fine as long as the first 2 are good. You don't really need the third one to be an elite, third receiver or anything like that. It's a good option to have, man. When you have a guy that could make a 4th down grab as your 3rd or 4th receiver, that's a great benefit to your quarterback. So, yeah, man, I want to see what these guys are. I don't know if they'll ever turn into ones that could take over Lamb or Cook spots, though.
Luke Schoonmaker and Mozzie Smith, the second year for 2 players who did a whole bunch of nothing last year. And Schoonmaker's coming off of another surgery. What is your hope or anticipation for these 2 players?
I think for Mozzie, you have to hope that he ends up being the guy that you thought he could be this year. I'll give him a little bit of an excuse because he was healthy last year. So he got the reps in practice. He got the reps.
Which is important.
But he was, listening to Broadus and other people who, he was late off of the ball. He'd get horrible jumps on the snap. And then he was very non-competitive. He was trying. I'm not saying he wasn't trying, but because he was so late, the offensive linemen are like, man, this is like going against a high school kid. Yeah. He's so bad at this that it's easy. And so hopefully this offseason he worked his butt off on timing, on getting better, because he does have the talent.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the Cowboys took a dude who was supposed to be, it wasn't like, nothing against Quincy Carter. Sorry, Quincy. It wasn't like, hey, that dude was supposed to be like a 4th to 6th round pick. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Mozzie was supposed to be the end of the 1st, early 2nd round pick. So it wasn't like they reached on him. Everybody thought he could be an impactful player in the NFL, and he wasn't at all last year. So, yeah, a lot. Scooney he might end up being a dude who his body is not made for the NFL. That he can't stay healthy. There's too much physicality. There's too much ask upon him that his body can't handle this. So at this point, I would say Scooney looks like a complete bust. I hope I'm wrong. But his body can't handle the physicality and the adult nature of the NFL.